In a world where we're constantly encouraged to just be happy and push through our struggles with a smile, depression remains one of the most deeply misunderstood battles, a quiet, invisible weight pressing down on the soul. It's an experience often concealed behind everyday conversations and smiling faces, making it hard to recognize even in those closest to us. Today, we take a deeper dive into understanding depression, not as a passing mood or momentary sorrow, but as a condition that reaches into every part of life, reshaping reality for those in its grip. Maybe you felt it yourself, that persistent fog that no amount of rest seems to clear, or perhaps you're watching someone you care about slowly lose their light, unsure how to help. Depression is universal. It touches people of every background, age, and lifestyle, yet harmful myths continue to obscure it, fueling silent shame and suffering. In this video, we're spending the next 15 minutes unpacking the truth about depression, its biology, its symptoms, and the very real hope for healing. This isn't just an informational talk. It's an invitation to see depression through a lens of empathy, whether for yourself or someone you love. Because sometimes, simply understanding can become the first meaningful step toward healing. Depression isn't simply about having a bad day or feeling blue. It's a comprehensive and often relentless disruption of how someone experiences a world. Clinical depression or major depressive disorder changes how the brain interprets thoughts, emotions, and even basic sensations. It's not an emotional low that passes with time, but rather a persistent distortion that deepens ordinary valleys into something far darker. Too often, society mislabels depression as weakness or a lack of willpower, which only worsens the pain for those already struggling. But make no mistake, depression is a legitimate medical condition, not a personal failing. Its symptoms affect every area of life, including physical health, energy, focus, and relationships. Think of it like carrying a heavy, invisible weight every moment of the day, while everyone else seems to walk freely. And when others suggest it's all in your head, or that you should just be grateful, that burden becomes even harder to bear. Recognizing depression for what it is, a serious but treatable condition, can replace judgment with compassion and allow healing to begin. To truly understand depression, we have to look beneath the surface, into the intricate workings of the brain. Depression arises from a disruption in the brain's complex communication system, particularly the neurotransmitters that influence mood, motivation, and behavior. But the idea that it's just a chemical imbalance is outdated. Modern research shows that depression is shaped by a rich interplay of genetics, brain structure, stress hormones, immune responses, and life events. Imagine the brain as a finely tuned orchestra that's fallen out of sync. Some instruments are too loud, others too soft, and the harmony is gone. Neuroimaging reveals that in depression, certain brain areas, especially those involved in emotion, memory, and decision-making, are physically altered. Chronic stress can flood the brain with cortisol, reshaping neural connections in ways that make it harder to feel joy, think clearly, or regulate emotions. Even inflammation, which the body usually produces to fight illness, is now linked to depressive symptoms in many people. Understanding these mechanisms doesn't reduce depression to biology alone. It highlights how our bodies, minds, and environments are deeply connected in shaping mental health. Depression shows up in many ways, affecting each person a little differently, but with some shared signs that we can learn to recognize. Emotionally, it often brings a deep sense of emptiness, not just sadness, but a dullness that flattens even once joyful experiences. Many describe it as the inability to feel like someone has dimmed emotional volume on life. Hope seems to vanish, replaced by a deep pessimism that makes the future feel bleak or meaningless. Activities that used to bring joy no longer matter, and connection with others becomes draining or even painful. The mind becomes a hostile place, filled with intrusive thoughts, concentration difficulties, and a sense that nothing will ever improve. Sometimes, depression leads to thoughts of death or suicide, not because someone truly wants to die, but because they see no other way to escape the pain. These moments should never be ignored. Depression also affects the body, causing sleep disruption, changes in appetite, low energy, and even physical pain. And because these symptoms often emerge gradually, many people don't recognize what's happening until the condition is deeply entrenched. Another reason why awareness matters so much. There is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to depression. It comes in many forms, each with its own rhythms and patterns. Major depressive disorder is the most recognized, marked by deep, persistent symptoms that last at least 2 weeks and severely impact daily life. For others, depression is quieter but more chronic, as in persistent depressive disorder, which lingers in the background for years, sometimes decades. It may not always be disabling, but it drains vitality and shades life in gray. Then there's seasonal affective disorder, which appears like clockwork when sunlight wanes, disrupting biological rhythms and dimming the mood until spring returns. For new mothers, depression can take the form of postpartum depression, a serious condition far beyond typical baby blues that can cause emotional detachment, guilt, and intense sadness during a time that's supposed to be joyful. And some women experience premenstrual dysphoric disorder, a monthly emotional crash tied to hormonal cycles that disrupts relationships, work, and well-being. Understanding these variations helps reduce shame and validates the experiences of those who may not see their story reflected in the most common narratives. When it comes to the causes of depression, no single explanation is ever enough. Instead, it's often a perfect storm of genetic risk, past trauma, ongoing stress, and biological sensitivity. If someone in your family has struggled with depression, your chances increase. But this isn't destiny. Life experiences matter deeply. Childhood neglect or trauma can shape how your brain and body respond to stress for the rest of your life, increasing the chances of developing depression later. And major life events, even positive ones like marriage or promotion, can trigger depression if the stress becomes overwhelming or support is lacking. Chronic illness, hormonal changes, or neurological issues can also play a role, either directly by affecting brain function or indirectly through the emotional toll of coping with poor health. Personality traits like perfectionism, overthinking, or excessive self-criticism can create internal environments where depression thrives. The more we understand these overlapping factors, the more we can break free of simple explanations, and the more tailored our support and treatment can become. The good news is that depression is treatable, and there are many evidence-based paths to recovery. Therapy remains a cornerstone. Cognitive behavioral therapy, for example, helps people identify and challenge negative thoughts. Interpersonal therapy focuses on improving relationship dynamics, and newer mindfulness-based approaches teach skills for staying grounded even in emotional turbulence. Medication can also be effective, helping to stabilize brain chemistry in ways that allow other forms of healing to take hold. For many, antidepressants are a lifeline, sometimes temporary, sometimes long-term. Physical health plays a major role too. Regular sleep, exercise, nutrition, and reduced alcohol use don't just support recovery. They directly influence the same brain systems involved in depression. For severe or treatment-resistant cases, options like transcranial magnetic stimulation, ketamine therapy, or even psychedelics under medical supervision show promise. And never underestimate the power of human connection. Strong social support, meaningful relationships, and a sense of purpose can become the bedrock of healing, even when symptoms persist, reminding us that we're not alone, and that life can still be rich with meaning. As we reach the end of this exploration, let this be a reminder. Depression may be powerful, but it is not permanent. Even in its darkest moments, the human spirit is still capable of healing, growing, and reclaiming joy. Understanding depression is not just about science or diagnosis. It's about empathy. By learning more, by choosing to see rather than judge, we create a world where no one has to suffer in silence. If this conversation resonated with you or helped shift your perspective, please consider subscribing to Adzakaprat for more thoughtful discussions on the mind, mental health, and what it means to be human. Because when we share knowledge, we build bridges, and those bridges can lead people out of the darkness and into hope.